Another episode of Locked On Bulls. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the Bulls' big win in overtime against the Houston Rockets as Pat the Designer is showing up. Hey, what's going on, Pat?
You took me. Stop taking me off the stage.
Thank you for showing up there, brother.
Anyway. Why is Nick here? Why is Nick? Nick, we're live. We're live, Nick.
You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we're going to break down the Chicago Bulls OT win, Zach LaVine's most complete game yet, and trusting Coby White in the fourth quarter. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA first deposit match up to $100. Pat, I didn't know you was gonna be here now, bro. Hey, listen,
I literally said shout out Locked On Mavs in the beginning, in the building, in the comments already. I literally was like, I just finished Locked On NBA. I gotta run over here and do Locked On Bulls, and I didn't expect Nick to follow me.
Hey, Nick was probably like, hey, let's run in on these guys, man.
Make sure they're doing their job.
Make sure they're doing their job. Well, the Chicago Bulls get 124-119 victory over the Houston Rockets. Now, this was an interesting game in which the Chicago Bulls were going back and forth. Like, they had several 8-point leads, several different 8-point leads that kept allowing the Houston Rockets to come chip away at that lead. The Bulls end up leading in this game for 39 minutes out the game. But the key thing in this one, the fourth quarter in this game, Alperen Sengun, a player that me and you have both been high on for years, went nuclear in the end of the fourth quarter, in the beginning of the overtime period. And this is usually a game where the Chicago Bulls end up losing a game. Sengun just going complete. He was killing Vooch. It was at one point where he was like Alfred Jordan out there. He was just killing it. But the Bulls end up coming down the stretch in that fourth quarter and really still pulling it out for a 5-point victory. How'd you feel about the game overall, Pat?
Listen, I like that the Bulls ended up getting the win. There's some questions that I have on the fourth quarter, and I think that goes to the conversation of people being traded, right? Yeah. But for the most part, I thought that offensively, the Chicago Bulls did a good job scoring up until the end of that fourth quarter. It felt like a Bears game, honestly. The last 4 minutes, we let it get away. It felt like a Bears game. That's why, I mean, not really. I've been recording for hours, but I really look at the Chicago Bulls in this game. And I thought that, listen, it felt like there was a clear pecking order for 3.5 quarters. Mm-hmm. It felt like I watched this game and I left this game going, Zach LaVine is a great number 2. Everybody was right the entire time. Mm-hmm. And Coby White looked like an amazing player. He was balling out. I saw a Coby White that I was like, listen, versus this defense. And remember, the Houston Rockets defense, a really elite defense. This
Second
is not
best defense in the NBA.
Right. This is not a joke of a defense that you're going up against here. Now, no Dillon Brooks makes a big difference in this game. I also do believe that. But still, some really good defensive play from the Rockets in this game. And Coby White was able to cook pretty much the entire game until you took the ball out of his hands. I thought that I was really excited with what we saw from the Chicago Bulls for most of this game. I thought when we got the ball back in Coby's hands in the overtime, we started to really see what this team looked like in the first 3 quarters. And it really makes that fourth quarter look even worse when you look at the overtime.
Yeah, it really does. That fourth quarter was, and that's the thing. Like, we'll talk about trusting why Billy Donovan needs to trust Coby White more in the fourth quarter here in the last segment of this episode. But I do want to focus on the team aspect, the team play. The first half of this game, basically every starter had about 7 to 8 shots, and then you had DeMar DeRozan, I think, with 10 shots in the end of that first half, I should say. And I love the way that Billy Donovan balanced out the opportunities for the starters there. I mean, every starter ends up finishing in double digits in this game overall. Still, there's a really nice, when you look at this shot, the shot breakdown here, Alex Caruso with 10 shots, Zach with 15, both Vooch and Coby White with 17, and then DeMar DeRozan with 19. You take away that spot where DeMar went rogue in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter period. Basically, every starter's around 15 to 17 shots. I feel like that's a really good breakdown, especially when the offense is working really well, and that's what it was tonight. 44% shooting overall from the field and 40% shooting from three-point range from that. You think, taking that fourth quarter aside, do you like the way that the offense kind of spread that ball around today?
Yeah, I thought that, listen, Coby White has proven to be everything that y'all have told me that he's been. I said last pod I'm in. Today, guess what? I'm even more in.
Was it the toe that you dipped in, or were you completely in? Like you?
No, you know what it is like when you lose a little bit of weight, right? You get a little more, so now you're more in.
Wow.
Oh God. No, I really thought that Coby White did a really good job of initiating the offense. I thought that, and here's the thing, the ball moves really well, and he does it, and there's not a force trying to force the offense. That's what it felt like for most of this game. The Bulls weren't trying to force anything. It was just getting it out to the corner. Boom, wide open, DeMar DeRozan. Okay, good. Zach LaVine did some really, really, really good things in this game. The shooting, especially to finish out the first half, I loved it from Zach LaVine, and that was created
throughout the game, though.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, right? We saw an offense today for most of this game that was created off of defense. How often have we talked about that? You've got really good scores on this team, but it's all based off of getting in transition, getting good defensive plays, getting steals, getting on the other end, being able to knock down shots when you get those steals and those turnovers. The Bulls have a team that if they're running, you struggle to run with them, which is wild to say about the Chicago Bulls. Actually, that's probably the first time I've said that about the Chicago Bulls
since Lonzo, right?
I was going to say since Derrick Rose.
I think that, well, I mean, when we got out in transition with that team, especially when Lonzo got into that rhythm with Derrick Jones Jr., was really dangerous.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
either
crazy.
way, it's still, we're talking about either
gross.
a decade or 3 years. Either way, it's still a lot of time. Like
a decade or 3 years, I'm tired of waiting.
It's been 12 years since we drafted Marquise Teague. Somebody brought it up on the Central's live stream today, and it's like 12 years, and I still will never forget that I'm still mad about.
Here's my issue. Wasn't his name Marcus?
It's Marquise Teague,
Was
right?
it Marquise? I thought it was Marcus.
It's Maquis. That's Marquise, right?
Hey, bro, I thought his mama was ghetto because I swear we always called him Marcus.
I mean, listen.
And then I don't know what Jeff called him. Jeff got a whole nickname for him. It's like Pookie or something like that. Like it's a whole different nickname on the podcast.
At the end of the day, he didn't play well enough for him to deserve his name to be pronounced correctly. So I don't care how you pronounce it. I don't care how you pronounce it. It doesn't matter. Marcus Teague, Marquise Teague, it don't matter. Teague, the wrong Teague, brother. How about that?
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole on that.
Yeah, you did. You tend to do that. But it's cool. It's cool. Now, the one thing in this game, before we get out this first segment, yes, the Bulls got the dub. That is the most important thing. But we saw something that we may never see again in our lifetime happen in this game, Pat the Designer. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I do not.
Andre Drummond got 0 rebounds in this game. That's crazy, right?
That's insane.
I was so confident that I was like, when I did the halftime hangout over on Central, I was like, yeah, Drum got 0 rebounds, but best believe he's coming for them rebounds in the second half of this game.
Bro, I'm not going to lie to you. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they said on the broadcast, this is the first time he's ever done that.
It doesn't surprise me.
Like, bro, Andre Drummond had 3 rebounds that were literally in his hands, and he was not able to bring them in. I am actually like mind blown by that. And I thought that I was just like you, bro. Like, I thought we were going to see him go out in the second. Because listen, he didn't have a ton of minutes, right? He only played, what did he end up playing? 13 minutes in this game. But Andre Drummond's a guy that in 13 minutes, we've seen him get 11 and 10.
Yeah, it's It was what now that one, and that's a question before we go. We both kind of thought with the way that Drummond played when he was in the starting lineup, we may see that minute split between him and Vooch become a little bit more even.
Yeah.
What do you think about first game Vooch back in the starting lineup? We're right back to 13 minutes for Andre Drummond. What do you think about that real quick before we go
Too
into
few.
the break?
Why is DeMar DeRozan playing 42 minutes? Why is Coby White playing, or why is not Coby White? Why is Nikola Vucevic playing 40 minutes? It's too few. It's too few. Like Dalen Terry played 6 minutes in this game, a guy who actually gave you some good production and looked good in the limited time that he was able to play in this game. I don't like the shortened rotation. I don't know why Billy Donovan is all of a sudden going back to it. I thought you found something in that last game that was really good, having Vooch play 28, him play 22. I thought you found something there. But just like every Chicago team in true Chicago fashion, oh, that looked really good. Let's do that again. Whoa, you take a breather, sir. We're going to go back to what the system says we should do. At least the Bears had the balls to fire the guy that did that.
But next up, we're going to be talking about the game that Zach LaVine did have, which was one of the most complete games that we've seen from Zach LaVine in quite a while. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks now also offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Pat. This game from Zach LaVine, it started off with Zach's shooting being kind of questionable.
Yep.
But it ends up rounding out. He plays some really good defense. He ends this game with a plus-minus of plus 14, 25 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, 4 turnovers from Zach LaVine. He also had 5 personal fouls. He went 8 of 15 from the field, 4 of 8 from three-point range. The sweet life of Zach and Coby was back tonight.
Let me ask you this, and I know normally I don't turn this back on you this quick, but that was crazy. I was trying to move past it. That was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. And we got to get to the point where we get like Cam and Mace. Like, we want to get childish, we can get childish.
That's funny.
Did Zach LaVine's game tonight feel like a prime, not at the highest level, but a prime Klay Thompson type game? Because that's the thought process I had when I was like, he's doing the things defensively, he's knocking down shots, and he's finding guys open.
I can get with that. I can see where you're coming from with that. My initial instinct on that is like, hold up, slow your horses. A little too much dip on your chip there.
Now listen, don't think 50 points versus what was it, 63 points versus us, Klay Thompson on 5 dribbles. Let's not think that.
Yeah.
But like a legitimate, like everything I need Coby White to not have to worry about tonight, you deal with.
Yeah.
And look, I know what's going right. Like he's got to have some good games before they end up trading him. You got to, right? I know that's what's coming. I know Bulls fans don't want to hear that. He still doesn't like Billy Donovan, guys. If all of a sudden we get past the trade deadline and he's here, I love it. But he still doesn't have Billy Donovan. He still doesn't like Billy Donovan. But to me, I watched this game and I was like, that looks like the exact complementary piece that I would need to a guy that I feel like could be my #1 scorer on the team. Oh, by the way, Coby White looks like a #1 scorer on a team.
He really does. Coby White has just stepped up, but like to see Zach fit in this way, right? And this is why when you hear things like Zach it could be a great second, and he is showing teams because he's going to be a second on any or maybe even a third or any team that's really interested in him. And Zach LaVine playing this type of way. I know Bulls fans are still holding out hope. Well, Zach plays like this. Let's. By the way, did you hear that old man Jerry is vetoing Zach LaVine trades at this point? Did you hear that today?
I did not hear this. Who
So
put this out
Jerry
there?
Reinsdorf is actually one of the reasons that's keeping the front office from trading. Reportedly, that Jerry Reinsdorf does not like the concept of trading Zach LaVine and not getting quality back. So Jerry is telling the front office that he doesn't like the deals and offers they've gotten so far. That's crazy.
I'm not going to lie to you, right? That makes total sense to me. One, because of the 15% trade kicker.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
But two, right? Somebody had to be instrumental in getting Zach LaVine paid. Because I've said this, I've heard this from very good sources the entire time. Michael Reinsdorf is not a Zach LaVine fan. He does not believe that he's a player that can go out there and win games. And to his point, we haven't seen Zach LaVine do a ton of winning in his time here in Chicago. When he's on the court, the team is kind of taking steps in the other direction, minus the 35 games with Lonzo. So that is not very surprising to me. And I'll say this: does it change Zach's thought process at all that Jerry Reinsdorf is saying you're worth more than what people are trying to give up for you? Or is this just Jerry being like the same Jerry that Scotty is basically saying, don't sign this contract if you don't want to be here?
I mean, well, I think it's different in this point. Like, I think because that was Jerry trying to give Scotty the best advice for him. I think this is Jerry looking out for the best for the team. To say for Jerry, who largely isn't involved in the day-to-day, like Michael is taking that over, to step in and basically say, hey, I don't like these offers we're getting for Zach. Let's not pull the trigger on this. I don't know if we've ever seen Jerry step in a way like that before. When have we seen Jerry stop a player from being traded in that way? Like, I know we've seen deals not get done, us not pull the trigger on us bringing in salary, but to pull the trigger on something like that, have we ever seen Jerry in that? I know Jerry stepped in before.
Here's the thing. I can't say that I can come up with a specific deal, but I find it very hard to believe that he's never done it, just from watching his dealings with the White Sox.
Like, that's I mean, and that's fair. And just because you haven't heard it before doesn't mean that hasn't happened. Come on, what we do? And you know what it was? This is all it is. He was in his Emperor Palpatine internal rest, and he sensed that, hey, wait a second, that a 14 are my pockets tingling? I felt a great disturbance in my bank account. 14% trade kicker?
Right, my Lord, LaVine. I'm not sure if I'm doing Palpatine on that. Who would that be?
You kind of sound more like Vince McMahon on that one.
Yeah, bro, a little
Vince McMahon on that one. Which I wouldn't be surprised if Vince McMahon and Jerry Reinsdorf are actually friends outside of
Austin, you son of a... That wasn't bad. Hold on. That wasn't a bad McMahon right there.
Good. That wasn't
a bad McMahon right there. I'm trying to think. What else did he say? Oh, I can't say the other one that came to my mind.
Okay. Anyway,
come on out of there,
we're back on Zach LaVine's game. Let's get back into it. Do you think that we see the Zach from whenever? It's just as long as whenever he's a Bull, right? Because people get triggered. Do you think we can consistently see this version of Zach for a while?
I've always said Zach LaVine could play defense. We've talked about how Zach LaVine's defense has gotten better. We can't pretend like it hasn't, right? Like there are things that Zach LaVine has gotten better as a player over his time as a Chicago Bull. But I think the one question is he going to continually just fit into the offense? Right? Like, and tonight wasn't a night where he didn't. Tonight was a night where DeMar DeRozan didn't.
We'll talk about that here.
And we're going to talk about that, right? But tonight was a perfect Zach LaVine, and the problem with that is he okay being that version of Zach? Because tonight he was a clear cut with everything he did. He was the clear cut number 2 on the court.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did used to say "you're fired," didn't he? Shout out, Steve.
But
you're fired. That's not bad.
It is something. I was about to do something else, but it is something to be said about how there's a relationship between Zach and Coby because they're longest tenured Bulls. But I think Zach LaVine stepping up defensively the way that he did allowed Coby to be who Coby is offensively. And then Zach not having to take so much of the load on offensively that he's had to do most of his time here with the Bulls allowed him to be more aware. We've always said Zach LaVine's been a fine on-ball defender. It's been off-ball where he loses some of that awareness. And it seemed like maybe because he didn't have to take on a large of a scoring load throughout large parts of the game, that he was more focused on the off-ball portion of the defense.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, this is what I will say. I also know who Zach LaVine is on the court. He was looking for them assists. There was a play right after where he drove to the bucket and could have got a lay.
He could have had a triple.
And he tried to throw that mug to Vooch, and I was like, he's chasing the stats a little bit on this one. But this version of Zach can be a guy that, if DeMar DeRozan is possibly not on the team, I could still see averaging 22 to 25 plus and him still being worth his contract. We had heard the other day that there might not be a trade for multiple veterans, but I don't know if that means Zach LaVine is on. I'll say this. He's bought into Billy's system. And it seems like, and one thing we haven't touched on, and maybe we could talk about it in the fourth quarter because it was a part of that as well. It seems like since Zach LaVine has been back and he's bought into the system, Billy Donovan's more willing to defend his players. This is the most animated I've ever seen Billy Donovan since he's been on the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. So this is a different team right now. It's a different team right now.
It's a different team, and it's continuing to be a different team, but will it look like a different team after the trade deadline? That's the question on the table. Before we get into this final topic, though, boy, we got to talk about that fourth quarter. That bad. That's all you can say. Bad. We got to tell you guys about Jase Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if my wife or my daughter or one of my one of my family members got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from a life-saving medication that they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinuses, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. So visit jasecase.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your offer.
All right, Pat, with that said, man, we got to talk about this fourth quarter. So I'm going to run some stats through you real quick, bro. So there was a player on the team that was 0-6 in the fourth quarter of this game. He was 2-2 from free throw range. He had 0 assists, 0 rebounds, 0 anything. Is that the player that you want to trust to take the last shot? I'm just wondering.
Yes. I know it's wrong, but yes.
Okay.
And you want to know why? Because he's done it before, and I can't. Would you take the ball out of Stephen Curry's hand?
But is that not what we did? I can make the argument that that's what we did by taking it out of Coby White's hands.
Yes, but I've got a guy on my team that's proven that already.
True, but
right?
you also have a guy on your team that you have a guy on your team that's emerging, and if you want him to develop as a closer in the fourth quarter, you can't continue to take the ball out of his hands in fourth quarters.
I'm gonna be honest with you. The game winning shot doesn't piss me off.
Okay.
All the shots before that do.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Because here's my thing, right? Like DeMar DeRozan is, and I said this many times on the pod, he's the Stephen Curry of the mid-range. He really is a dude that you look at and you're just like, how the heck did he make that shot? Like there were people draped all over him. Some dude punched him in the back of the head, and the shot still went in because he's practiced that shot a million times. He's been shooting that shot. Do you practice that shot? A one-legged turnaround fadeaway? You practice that? I just found out he's not coaching Georgetown no more. Can you tell I haven't paid attention to Georgetown basketball at all, which probably speaks more to Georgetown. But I just found out the other day because I was watching Georgetown and I literally was like, is he over there? Is he back there? Like,
you didn't know he wasn't the coach of Georgetown?
I know Patrick Ewing. I ain't kept up with Patrick Ewing. Like, I don't know what he's doing. I assume he got dunked on again by Michael Jordan at some point in the 60s. But I feel like the last shot I can live with. But to take the basketball out of Coby White's hands in a fourth quarter where he went into that fourth quarter with 27 points. That is criminal. That makes no sense. And this is not we need to have our closer in this situation. You were up. This is not a time for your closer. This is a time for you to keep running the score up. Put your foot on their throats and kill them. At that point, DeMar DeRozan didn't have it going. Okay, give him a couple of shots. If he gets it going after his first couple shots, I bet. Here we go. He never got it going.
Let's keep in mind, DeMar DeRozan in the second half, the whole second half of this game was 2 for 9 and didn't hit a single shot in the overtime period. This was probably one of the coldest stretches of DeMar DeRozan's career, bro. Like DeMar went.
But it might be true.
DeMar went almost 20 minutes of not making a shot in a game.
Yeah. Well, the Bulls went 4, so. It's just, but it was a lot due to him. It's tough to say because I know what DeMar is, and I really do value his ability to shoot the mid range, especially in a game winning situation. I value his ability to get it going. But dang it, I hate to say this, you're gonna have to trade DeMar. Because I
didn't think I'd ever hear you say that.
Your head coach. Well, I mean, I haven't been like overwhelmingly like trade DeMar, but it's not. I'm losing my mind if we do.
Yeah.
But your head coach is unwilling to allow other people to handle the ball in the fourth quarter, even when they're doing better. And this has been the case since DeMar has come back. We've seen Coby White cook, and then in the fourth quarter, the ball's in DeMar's hands. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But you've got a head coach right now, and this is a flaw of Billy Donovan's, or fire Billy Donovan, one or the other. Trade DeMar or fire Billy. I'm fine with either. I'm fine. Both give me the result I'm looking for here. But you have a head coach right now that in the fourth quarter, he respects these guys so much, he's going to give them the ball no matter what. He respects what Zach LaVine and Coby White and Nikola Vucevic have done in the NBA, that he's going to give them the opportunity to be the best players on the team, when I hate to say it, but it doesn't look like they're the best players on your team anymore. And you need to start transitioning to giving the best player on your team the basketball. You know what team had issues with this? The Houston Rockets. You know who fixed that? Ime Udoka. You know what he did? He said, hey, why we don't get that big dude that's got elite footwork the ball a lot more? All of a sudden, it was just like, Alperen Sengun can play basketball. I've been telling y'all this for 3 years.
I don't think anybody doubted if he could play basketball, but
I don't know if people thought he could play it at this elite of a level. Every time he played the ball, first off, Vooch gets cooked by every younger version of him. Every single one.
I don't know if Vooch was ever as athletic. No, I keep forgetting that. Vooch
young
had
Vooch was a baller, bro.
When he first started.
Nah, he wasn't. He couldn't dunk as well as Sengun could, but like Vooch's back to the basket footwork was elite, bro.
Yeah.
Vooch's back to the basket footwork was elite. Now Alperen Sengun,
y'all need to start keeping track of how often Pat mentions feet on this podcast. Like it's always something.
Listen, I'm talking. His basketball footwork's important. I don't know.
I get it, but he's not always in reference to footwork.
I feel like we notice it more since the toe thing. I feel like we noticed it more. Ever since the toe thing, we've noticed it more. There's been let's be honest. There's been a lot of toes mentioned this year in sports in general.
Well, in Bulls too. Like we had Zach with the foot injury. Like it's just.
All right, that's enough for today. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. It's been Locked On Bulls. We out here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. Oh, wait. Cut that music off. Go back. Hey, Haize.
Go ahead.
You almost forgot, boy. We do this on wins 3 in a row, baby. see red. What you want to know? We talking about a toe. Watch your feet. A beat you.
And Pat just almost got fired. Y'all almost seen Pat the Designer get fired live on air. We out here, man. Peace, y'all.
Oh, God. Oh, God, that was great.